Today, we are reading 2 Samuel chapter 3. We have Pastor Joshua sharing. Chapter 1 to 4 is one unit in the 2 Samuel. Saul died. Who would succeed him? We don't know yet. It's not like a given that David will take the kingship. So Saul died, then everyone would say, okay, David, you could be king. It's not a given. No, that's not the case. So chapter 1 and 4 tell us how David established his kingdom. So in chapter 1, I mentioned the lamentation of David over the death of Saul. He kept saying, how the mighty have fallen. How the mighty has fallen. These words keeps ringing in my ear ever since I share on chapter 1. So David was not just being pretentious. He was not pretending, oh, Saul, you died a horrible death. He was not pretending. Oh, Saul, why would you end up like this? But at the end, he was like, he took pleasure. No, that's not his case. How the mighty have fallen. The Lord's anointed king have fallen. How? The anointed king of the Lord have fallen. He also lamented for Jonathan and Saul out of his heart, from the bottom of his heart. And here, Saul was trying to kill his life, trying to take his life. But he was anointed by God to be king. The Spirit of God left Saul and anointed David instead to be king. So that Saul continued to try to take David's life. But the heart of David was after God's own heart. He did not remember the wrong, how Saul had wronged him. From a human point of view, yes, Saul was trying to take his life, for sure. So from a human point of view, he should have taken Saul's life back. But as we read on 1 Samuel and then now 2 Samuel, it was not the heart of David. David looked to God. David did not fight for what he would gain on earth at the present time. So as we read 1 and 2 Samuel, we must see the heart of David. That was the key. It was the key. That the author of 1 and 2 Samuel was trying to tell the people in captivity what should they do. Not to look at the circumstances, not to look at the actual situation, not to look at the reality, and not to think from the human point of view or the world what we should do. Instead, we must go after God's own heart. Look to God alone. So when Saul died, truly David was lamenting, he was grieving over the death of Saul. He didn't know how Saul died. Not only did he not kill Saul, not only so, he did not kill Saul, but also he did not side with any of the enemy camp. He did not side with any of the enemies. Even though the Achish, the king of Philistines, when David was following him, but in the heart of David, he had made up his mind. He would not. He had made up his mind. David did not say, okay, I will kill Saul for the sake of the Philistine king, Achish. And then Achish, the Philistine king, will set me as king over Israel. Then I could become, then Israel would become under the Philistine. So, in the international war, we know that we'll try to rule the Chinese with the Chinese. But at the time, he did not side with Achish, David. So he did not kill the enemies of the king. He will kill the enemy of his lord, the king, which is God, not Achish. And God helped him so that he was able to come out of that dilemma. He did not turn to anyone for David. At the beginning, he did try to run to Samuel, which was really good, but Samuel was unable to protect him. Samuel protected him once, protect David. In all his life, ever since he was anointed as king, he was running away, running away from being pursued. And he kept looking to God. That's the life of David. When Saul died, he was truly grieved for Saul because his heart was knitted with God. And then Dr. HK shared chapter 2 because I was in retreat. Now today I want to share chapter 3. The title for chapter 3 is The more David followed God, the stronger he grew. To all of us, we say, the more we follow, those who follow God will grow stronger and stronger. Why do I title this way? Because of verse 1. I divide this whole chapter into 3 paragraphs. Verse 1 is the first paragraph. Those who follow God, or he who follows God, grows stronger and stronger. That's verse 1. And then verse 1, the first paragraph, verse 1 itself is first paragraph. The blessing of God, with God's blessing, we also, even with God's blessing, we also face difficulties. Even with God's blessing, we still face difficulties. That's verse 1. Saul died. Was it just really naturally that David was being crowned king? No, that was not the case. Saul died. All his sons died except one. And that's Isbosheth. And also Abner was still around. Abner, Isbosheth, and also David, 3 of them. 3 of them. After Saul died, who will become king over Israel? Now, chapter 2 told us 3 parties. David was crowned king in Hebron, and he became king over the house of Judah. that's in the south of Israel. That's the king over house of Judah, not the king over Israel. David himself was of the tribe of Judah. So naturally, the people of Judah would just crown him king, make him king, and knew that Samuel had anointed him as king. But for the northern side, at least 10 tribes in the north. Okay, David, I will make you king. No, they did not do that at this point. Abner, the commander of the Saul's army, Saul and all his sons died. Besides, only one left, Ishbosheth. Only one left. But Abner was still around. He was holding the power over the whole army. He became the strongest in the north side. And also, Saul's son Ishbosheth. Who should be king over Israel? In the history, so God anointed David as king. It doesn't mean that when Saul died, immediately David naturally became king. No. There was still power struggle in the reality. The world is still operating. So these three parties here, which one of them will be able to gain the kingship? Now we are on chapter 3. He who follows God grows stronger and stronger. That's my title for today. Now there was a long war between the house of Saul and the house of David. It didn't mean that immediately David was made king. It did not happen. The house of Saul was still being supported in the 10 tribes in the north. The 10 tribes in the north still supported the house of Saul. Abner, the commander of the army, and also Ishbosheth as well. So that's what we talk about in chapter 2. Now there was a long war, at least over 7 years. Not immediate. It was not a short-lived war. So after David was anointed, then he was running away for his life. Then even after Saul died, he still had to, it took him at least 7 years. There was difficulty. There were difficulties. But here it tells us David grew stronger and stronger, and the house of Saul grew weaker and weaker. So that means grew stronger and stronger. In the original text, it's just one word, walk. Walk. Walk and strong. That's in the original text. So walk and stronger. That's in the original text. The house of David, as the house of David walk, it's stronger. House of Saul walk and weaker. How did David walk? Here we can tell how David walk. And in the First Samuel also tells us how David walked. He ran away for his life. Twice he had the chance to kill Saul, but he didn't. during the whole process, even when Saul died, what should David walk? How should David walk? Oh, yes. Oh, yes, great. I didn't kill him. Now he died. Oh, all sorted for me. It's terrific. He grieved for Saul and lamented for him. He even killed the boy, the Amalekites, who report that bad news, who reported Saul's death. He even killed that during the whole process. The heart of David turned to God. He did not oppose Saul, but he still took Saul, the Lord's anointed one, as king. That's in his heart. He did not seek help from nations. If I put in a Hong Kong current situation, he did not seek any foreign powers. God, he did not connect himself with any foreign countries. That's how he followed God. As we up to here, he continued to follow God. How did he walk? He walked as he followed God, and that's how he walked. The more he walked and he grew stronger. In the original text, it's interesting. There was a long war between the house of Saul and the house of David. The souls of Saul and the house of David. So there was a long war between the house of Saul. But David grew stronger, right? And the house of Saul grew weaker and weaker. Can you see? House of David was missing. The house in the second. David walked and stronger. That's the original text. The house of Saul walked and weaker. That's the second part of verse 1. Because Saul died, right? It's the house of Saul, the people of Saul, they walked and they weaker. But David continued to follow the footsteps of God, and he walked and he's stronger. A blessed person by God faces difficulty. Yes, that's true. And yet he continues to follow God. His footsteps follows God's. Then he will grow stronger and stronger. Now the second paragraph, verse 2 to 6. The subtitle for this paragraph is a little bit strange. With sons, it doesn't naturally means blessing. It doesn't mean that it's always a blessing to have a son, something like this. Yeah. Now, 6 sons were born to David in Hebron from 6 wives. 6 sons from 6 wives born to David in Hebron. Sons were born to David in Hebron. His firstborn was Amnon by Ahinoam the Jezreelitess. His second, Chileab, by Abigail, the widow of Nabal the Carmel. The third, Absalom, the son of Maacah, the daughter of Tamar, king of Geshur. Verse 3, and then verse 4, the fourth, Adonijah, the son of Hakkepha, the fifth, and then another 2 wives born. So he was king over Hebron for over 7 years, and he had 6 sons while he was there. That's how the Bible tells us. 6 wives, 6 sons were born to David. Do not think that. It's not telling, the Bible is not telling us that, okay, this is the heart of God, that David should have many wives in order to have many sons. No. In the Bible, it always tells us one husband, one wife. Now, David had 6 wives. That's the weakness of David himself. But God embraced him. God used David. David was not perfect. He had his own weaknesses. And yet God continued to praise him. So that's why it's recorded here. Does it mean God wanted him to marry 6 wives? No. And also, remember Michal, the daughter of Saul. So 6 sons born to David from 6 wives. Was it good? From man's point of view, oh yes, it's good, right? But from the historical point of view, that's not the case. Amnon, the first son, the firstborn, he caused a big trouble, remember? That's why Absalom killed Amnon, the first son, because he defiled Absalom's sisters. That's the problem of the house of David. It's the problems of David. That's why David also second time ran away for his life. That's what we'll read on. And then when David grew old, the 4th son, Adonijah, also rose up and tried to make himself king. Abigail was most clever, right? And she told her son, do not try to touch the kingship. His second son born by Abigail, because he was the second son. Abigail was most smart, teaching her son really well. That's why Abner, and then Absalom, and Adonijah did not bring blessing to the David's kingdom. From history, these parts of the scriptures here, David was king in Hebron and he grew. So he had 6 sons. But in the future, David's kingdom whether David's kingdom will flourish, will bloom in the future, it does not depend on how many physical children he has. Children born biologically are not necessarily or naturally or definitely will be a blessing. It doesn't mean that. This lesson we learn not only in history. The author wants the people in captivity to know, as an Israelite, as a Jew, we have blessings from God to Abraham. Does it mean that when we are born as descendant of Abraham, we'll be blessed? No. We will face difficulties. And it's not a given that we will be blessed. Just like David had 6 sons in Hebron. Does it mean that with these 6 sons that David's kingdom will be greatly blessed? No, it was not. Every one of us, every generation must take full responsibility for our own actions. Just like when David followed God, he gave account to God. He followed God, he was blessed. But these sons of his did not follow God, they would not be blessed. So that the people in captivity understand this is a lesson to them. To us, it's the same. We are Gentile for sure. We believe in Jesus. Does it mean that you will definitely be blessed after becoming a Christian? Yes and no. In Christ Jesus, we definitely are blessed. But are you in Christ Jesus? Do you follow Jesus? If you say that you believe in Jesus, you continue to follow the world, you are not like David, that your heart is after God's own heart. If you are not like that, it's hard for you to be blessed. Now, the last paragraph, verse 6 to 39. Is God's blessing to win over the whole Israel? David won the support of the 10 tribes in the north. It was totally God's working. I got no time to divide it into 4 subparagraphs. It's very direct. The scriptures is direct and clear to understand. 6 to 11. So the fight between Abner and Ishbosheth. So the northern part, so Abner made Ishbosheth, the son of Saul, be king. That's on the surface, on the paper. But actually, Abner was still ruling. So Abner did not give up his rights, his power over the army. How do we know? Now it was so while there was war between the house of Saul and the house of David, that Abner was strengthening his hold on the house of Saul. He held the power over the whole army. And Saul had a concubine whose name was Rizpah, the daughter of Aiah. So Ishbosheth said to Abner, "Why have you gone into my father's concubine?" Verse 7. So Abner went into Saul's concubine. That's verse 7. So we're saying that, Abner, he was like dirty old man, right? So he liked Rizpah, Saul's concubine. But there is also carried a political meaning. I am truly the successor of Saul. I will take over all concubine of Saul. That's why I went into his concubine. I am the real king of Israel. That's what Abner was trying to send a message. It's a declaration, a message. So when Ishbosheth faced this challenge, he must speak up. If he did not speak up, he had not spoken up, then he will always be just like a rubber stamp, and he will be just like a puppet, and he will be killed too, step by step. That's why he spoke up, and he challenged Abner. Why do you do this? Immediately, Abner, becomes so angry, and if you do this, I will show loyalty to David. Try to threaten Ishbosheth. And 12 to 21, so Abner turned defect to David and gathered the house of Israel to make covenants with David. He didn't care anything about the Ishbosheth. And verse 22 to 30. So Abner here, Joab, sorry. So Joab was trying to take revenge for his younger brother, right? Because he killed his own Asahel. Abner killed Asahel. He did not just take revenge for his younger brother Asahel. The Bible keeps saying that he was doing this for the blood of Asahel, his own brother. But from the attitude of David towards Joab, so Joab was just the Abner in the north, just the same. David was there, king, right? He was. David was ruling in Hebron. You know, people made him king in Hebron. But Joab had his own army, his own hold over the army. The three brothers of Joab was really strong, was mighty. So Joab also had strong power. So in the whole David's kingdom, Joab was always opposed David. It was only Joab who was always opposed David, because Joab was mighty. He must kill Abner. He really wanted to kill Abner. So when Abner turned to David, then David could rule over the whole Israel, right? So it would be like Abner and Joab together. So Abner was commander over 10 tribes, but then Joab was only commander over a house of Judah, right? Can you see? So David will have greater advantage over Joab. That's why Joab pursued Abner and killed Abner. That's without David's knowledge. And then also, as we read on, verse 31 to 39, the fourth paragraph. David mourned for Abner and said, Joab, you also mourn. 31. David said to Joab and to all people who were with him, tear your clothes, gird yourselves with sackcloth, and mourn for Abner. And King David followed the coffin. The Bible did not tell us whether Joab also mourned for Abner. But here, David really wept at the grave of Abner, so that all people wept. And people say, you please eat something. Verse 35. But David took an oath, God, do so to me, and more so if I taste bread or anything else till the sun goes down. Verse 35. That means he did not eat, did not drink anything till the sun goes down. He was weeping and weeping and weeping. Not only the house of Judah knew. Verse 36 here, he was weeping so much that all the people took note of it, and it pleased them, since whatever the king did pleased all the people. For all the people and all Israel understood that day that it had not been the king's intent to kill Abner, the son of Ner. Verse 37. All Israel understood that it was not David's intent to kill Abner, the son of Ner. The people turned towards David. Then the king said to his servants, verse 38, do you not know that a prince and a great man has fallen this day in Israel? And I'm weak today, though anointed king, and these men, the sons of Zeruiah, are too harsh for me. The Lord shall repay the evil done according to his wickedness. So now Abner turned to David, right? Why did Joab kill him? And that's why the king said to Joab, the guilt of shedding innocent blood is on you and your house. Why did you shed innocent blood? This this sin will do to you will be on you. So he cursed the house of Joab. And he even said it publicly, David did. The sons of Zeruiah are too harsh for me. Yes, that's the reality. But David continued to follow God. He was not afraid of Joab. He was not. He said what he should. He did what he should. He was not afraid of Joab turn against him. He was not being threatened by Joab. And he said, yeah, you are harsh. I'm weak. Yes. But God shall repay the evil done according to your wickedness. Evildoer. So you can tell that David followed God. He was not afraid of any man. He did what he should. He said what he should. Then gradually the whole Israel turned to David. Then he grew stronger and stronger. He walked and stronger. Why did he walk and grew stronger and grew stronger? Because in every matter, especially key matters, he knew the heart of God. And he walked according to the word of God. Then he grew stronger and stronger. The northern kingdom gradually, naturally, is a gift to David. From God to David. He didn't need to fight for it. Can you see it? The offer led people in captivity. Even though we are in captivity, we continue to follow God. The rise and fall of a kingdom, of a nation, depend on God. It's in the hand of God. We do not make alliance with anyone, with any nations. We continue to follow God. Then we will grow stronger and stronger. Even though we are weak now, but we continue to follow God. We ascend. We will be blessed more and more. We are blessed not because of children we have. We are blessed not because of our military power. We are blessed not because you have alliance. No. All because of God. And we must love our enemies because we have God. Everything is in the hand of God. The gain and loss of a nation is in God. May God bless us. And I'm glad we have celebrated our church 20th anniversary as we follow God this way. We walk and we grow stronger and stronger. May God continue to show us His grace. That's the end of our message today.